Really, you've got good eyes.
Craig Paller, Ken Newman on the motorcycle he stole from Prince.
Hi, Ken.
He stole the microphone from Prince. Unbelievable.
No, a motorcycle.
I can't believe that he did something like
Prince's
that.
Prince's motorcycle from Purple Rain.
I think we're live, Jan.
Oh yeah, I think that he did something like that.
Hello.
I think we're live, Jan.
Oh yeah, I think
hello.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we are live, actually. Hey, welcome everybody to the roundtable. So basically, we're going to talk about current events, how it affects our industry, and just remember, everything you hear today is an opinion. So if you want to make sure you're getting the right opinion, Google it, and of course, I just want to say this. I don't care if it's X-rated or not, but hey, opinions are like assholes. We all have them and they all stink. That's it. Everybody's got one there. They all stink. And so here we are today with a lot of news to cover. And I got a lot of things to talk about. But before we get into the nitty gritty of what I want to talk about, it's come to my attention that the time element of going on noon is not convenient for people. And so I am thinking seriously about going back to 3 o'clock Las Vegas time, 6 o'clock on the East Coast time. And I'm just curious of those people that are in the room, does anybody have an opinion on that?
I'm in favor of the change.
Somewhere in between would be better.
There's no raising of hands. We just talk. Fred, what do you think?
I'm in favor of going back.
Yeah, I think we'll do it. I think we'll do it. And it'll be a lot more convenient. If I do happen to get to Thailand, it'll be a lot easier for me if it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Actually, it'd even be better if it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Still haven't got there yet? I thought you were leaving weeks ago.
So did I. But my certificate of entry has been held up, and the guy that is in charge of that is suicidal right now. So there you have it. He's just suicidal.
No. It's okay. I'm mute.
That's the kind of effect you have on people, huh, Jan?
Yes.
Suicidal.
I've got them suicidal right now, so I think so. That's it. So we got that bit of housekeeping out of the way. One more thing I just want to say is that I have talked to a few people offline, and they have asked me if it would be okay if we did more of a technical aspect of, have one segment of the show where we get more technical. And I thought that was a good idea. And that's another thing I'd like to run by you guys to see if anybody would disagree with that. Because
I hope I bolstered that by asking the question about that line array a couple weeks ago.
Absolutely, you did.
It was because of that tremendously.
It was because of that line array question that it came out. And there is, we all know Kelly Fair. And one of the things that came up, Sennheiser. I have a Sennheiser handheld. This is the SK100, and you plug a microphone into it, but it's out of frequency range. So I called up Joe Cionelli over at Sennheiser, and we were talking about it, and he volunteered to come on and talk about the FCC and frequencies. And I said, wow, that's a great idea. And then I happened to have lunch with Kelly Fair yesterday, and Kelly says, let's do it. So if that's okay with you guys, then we can have a really interesting conversation. That could start off the technical aspect, and then we'll have a segment of, technical and how it affects our industry. So what do you guys think about that?
That's great, Jan. And I have a couple other manufacturers besides Sennheiser that would be willing to step in and participate and roll in for some switchers for streaming and any type of Dante or audio over IP. I have Syntax with RME and Digigram. They would love to participate in your show and show some technical features that are available for our current situation with communicating remotely and operating shows remotely and those type of things. I think would be great.
All right. Well, if the eyes have it, then we're going. One segment will be technical aspect, one aspect of our industry, technical, and how it affects what we're doing. So we'll do that as well. All right. And now on with the news. Clearwing, is hiring. So if anybody's looking for a job, they have 3 or 4 locations. I don't remember all of their locations. Tina, do you remember their locations that you could add? Anyway, they're looking for people. Okay, that's good. And on the same token, it's National Forest Week, and we're excited to join the incredible annual celebration and have partnered with the National Forest Foundation to encourage people across the country to visit the national forests. And so we're going to throw a link up in the chat on that, so that if you guys want to go out and visit the forest somewhere, hey, it's open. And for those people who are doing installs, I think the U.S. Forestry could use a good PA system, and probably an LED wall as well, so that you can so you don't have to be amongst the insects and bugs. They could set it up inside, and you could still see outside. I mean, it would be a great idea. What a tour that would be.
I've done that. It's not for the forestry department, but for national parks at one of their visitor centers.
Oh, very cool.
Never even occurred to me, but I got a phone call one day out of the blue about doing a service call, and then it turned into a replacement of an 86-inch LCD screen and a sound system at a visitor center.
Yeah, I think John Idelson might have done this. Is at the Monterey Aquarium. John, if you're around, you want to comment on that? Did you do anything about that, or because I know you're doing forestries, and I know you went underwater at the conservatory. You might want to add something, but if you're not, you're just listening in, and you're talking with Bobby.
I think he went to go buy some more black turtlenecks.
Oh, very good, very good. Well, hey, I hear that Steve Jobs' estate still has some left for sale. Absolutely, I hear that there.
And let that serve as a warning to all of you. If you walk away during the call, you most likely be made fun of in some way, shape, or form.
There you go. And so speaking of walking away from the call, so what do you guys think about the space race? Branson, Bezos, Musk. I mean, and basically on July 20th, Bezos is going up in space, And could you imagine the guy sitting next to him paid $28 million to be on that ship? Is that not impressive or not? Or what?
And if it doesn't work, it'd be a hell of a cost for a coffin, huh?
Yeah, it would. I mean, did you guys see Branson go up? Anybody see the video on that?
No.
That's really impressive. To spend 14 years to be able to go up in a spaceship at billions of dollars for what less than 5 minutes? That's some good value for your money right there.
Well, they didn't go into space. They went into near space. They looked at space closer than anyone has before, but they were not in space. That's not true. Elon Musk just bought another tract of land. He's taken over this whole town.
There are different. I heard on their broadcast that there are different definitions of space, right?
There was not space that he went into. He went up high.
I think it was according to NASA's definition of space. Maybe it is space. What do you think?
Anyway,
when I think of space, I think of the final frontier.
Right.
These are
Elon Musk just bought a big
big
tract of land up in Waco. He's going to build 1,000 of those massive, giant rocket engines that propel the what do they call it? The star. What is the name of the big rocket, the one that's the Mars rocket. He's going to build a huge number of engines for that. So he'll have a lot of rockets now.
Yeah. Do you know that back in the day when NASA was building the first space shuttle, they contracted EAW and Maryland Sound to build a wall of subwoofers to bombard the spaceship? Did you guys know that? Did anybody ever know that but me? Yeah, that's true.
That must have been in the Dave Gunnis days.
Very possibly.
Yeah, I think I heard that from Will Miller, who used to work for Maryland Sound. He was very, Rob Goldstein was really keen on charging the government lots of money for crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, if you ever get a chance to have a couple of beers with Dave Gunnis, you'll probably hear some really interesting stories of projects he's done for the U.S. government and or the Defense Department.
Will he have to kill us after he tells us the stories?
No, he thinks it's funny that they couldn't figure some of this stuff out on their own.
Right. It's impressive. I mean, but that was the idea, that they wanted to create the vibrations, because that's what sound is. It's a vibration. And the EAW subwoofers, I think they had something like 28 of them just, focused right on the space shuttle at full blast. That's how they simulated the vibration that the spaceship would go through when it was flying in the air. It'd be nice to have somebody come in and talk about that right now as well, because that was the beginning of the program.
Sounds like something that would be right up Meyer Sound's alley, because they're into subwoofers and stuff. But being on the opposite side of the country probably took them out of the running for that.
Actually, I know for sure that Meyer has done a lot of work for the military and for the space program, because of just the way John Meyer has his whole mind thinks like that. And I know they've designed circuitry and circuit boards as well as speaker systems for the space program. And I would assume that there's got to be speakers on the space shuttle, and there's got to be a paging system on the space station. Does anybody know anything about that? I mean, that would be something that we might want to talk about as well.
Then there's wireless microphones in use in the space station. Remember, whenever they do a broadcast, we see they have Electrosonics butt plug, right?
That's right. And speaking of
Just
which,
like your Sennheiser butt plug.
That's right. That's correct. Hey, Jeff.
But you know what I'm curious of, speaking of all that space travel, does anybody know about the radio communication devices involved in communicating from the Earth to those devices, those things that are out in space, the space station, the Virgin Atlantic thing, the Amazon thing, anything that goes that far away? What is the means of communication? Does anybody know?
It's standard radio frequency. What's the range? If you look up the full radio spectrum allocations from the FCC, you'll find the band. There's a band.
Is it called astronomy, or what's it called?
No, it's called NASA. It's reserved for NASA.
I think it's L band.
Yeah, it's up there a little bit, but and then it's just, turn it to 11. It'll get there.
Yeah, and so it's all about focusing the energy of the radio signal on the target, right?
So it's a moving dish. It's a moving dish. And it's tracking where they want to talk to, where you know what I mean.
They found it was much more convenient than using a string and a paper cup.
I'm sure. The reason I ask is because Virgin was kind of compromised. I mean, they did not have good video from their spacecraft, right? And that was one of the drawbacks, of the experience, was that we were not able to experience it live. We had to watch it on a replay when they got the files back from the trip, but we were not able to watch it live.
Yeah, well, that's true. But if you went to my Facebook page, I was on Virgin Atlantic's TikTok page, and the video footage from that is exceptional. Absolutely.
Well, after the fact, but not live, right?
Yes.
Because I watched it live on YouTube, and it was, it was breaking up like really badly, and so they just stopped using it.
Yeah, and did you notice how they had it set up at Truth or Consequence, New Mexico, at the Worldport? I noticed that they had a beautiful PA system. It was a line array system, as well as they had video screens and moving lights. Does anybody know what they used over there?
I know that my friend Ollie did some kind of opening of the spaceport a couple of years ago, or maybe it was a few years ago now. And so, I should ask him. Maybe he knows.
Yeah, that would be something that was good. And who knows, Dave Guinness, we should have him come in and talk about some things as well. So we'll do that. Anyway, another thing that's really interesting right now for you guys that like French fries, McDonald's just launched the contest that offers fans free French fries for life. So if you want to sign up for that contest, if you have not gotten enough fried food in your life, this is an opportunity of your lifetime right now to get involved with McDonald's and free French fries, baby, for life.
I have a
I wonder
McDonald's French fry anecdote.
I wonder if it's for life of you or for the life of the fry. I don't know. There's always that warranty. Tell us the anecdote, Mike.
So you might, probably not, Jan, because I don't think you eat at McDonald's. But I went to.
Oh yes, I do.
Okay.
We started eating. Tina and I started eating. Tina spoiled me by telling me about the deluxe chicken sandwich, which is
that's a good
really
sandwich. That's a good
amazing.
sandwich. Yeah. But I don't know if you eat at McDonald's in Thailand. But
No.
if you go to a McDonald's in Hong Kong, at least, when you order fries, they ask you what flavor. And the first time that happened to me, I was there on vacation. I'd been there about a week. I was tired of Chinese food, and I just wanted a good old-fashioned American burger. And then when I ordered the fries, they said, "What flavor?" And that kind of threw me for a loop. So I said, "What are my options?" And I think it was lemon pepper, barbecue, and something else. So what happens is your fries, they come in the little red cup thing, right? And you get a little brown paper bag. A small one, like you would see like at a liquor store that you could put a beer can into, right?
Yes, that's the only way I drink my beer.
Exactly.
Because
You're
I
walking down
like
the
to be
street.
surprised by the ending. Yes.
And then you get a little a little packet of flavored salt, of flavorings, and you dump the fries and the salt in the paper bag, and you shake the paper bag, and then the salt coats the fries, and you get flavored fries. So at some point in my life, I have thoughts of opening a fast food joint called Shakers, and that will be our signature, is that you will, because that's all you hear in McDonald's. When you walk in, you just hear lots of from everybody shaking their fries.
It's an interesting thing, but I think that for whatever reason it is, every one of us has the dream of one day of opening a restaurant, having a restaurant, some sort of theme restaurant that you've come up with. My idea for the restaurant would be called the Bachelor Pad, and every table would have a microwave oven and a toaster that would be coin operated. And and that's everything that you wanted to buy had to be either microwavable or put in the toaster to eat. And they're called the Bachelor Pad, that's so.
Oh dear, Steve Schluter walked away.
Oh yeah, well he's working. He's actually working. But speaking about walking away, let's talk a little bit about the Japan Olympics. Now that starts in like next week, and yet they're having all sorts of trouble with transmissions, with people, is anybody following what's going on in Japan right now with the Olympics? And does anybody want to say anything about that? Fred, are you following it from a broadcast standpoint of view?
I know it's the first time they're doing HDR. I know 3 people that are going over there. But I have not heard about this technical problem they were having. I did find out that my friend Chuck Hafley did that Virgin thing you were just talking about. He posted on Facebook yesterday a bunch of pictures. So he ran the production of that I guess they streamed live to everybody in the pool feed that went out. I was actually walking through the airport in Burbank, watching that thing on the monitors as we were walking towards security from our gate. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it really is amazing.
So, hey, Jan. Hey, it's Craig. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you loud and clear.
Fantastic. I recently hooked up Rowdy Gaines with Clear One product for his home office. There was a press release put out on it. He's announcing all the swimming. He wasn't supposed to go, so I hooked him up with stuff for his home office. So IP addressable cameras and things, so NBC can come in and control cameras right from his home. But he's gone dark, so I think he's actually on his way there if he's not already. So, as far as broadcasters going, I think he's going because he's not responding to any of my calls. So they'll be there, even though there won't be people in the seats.
Last I heard, it was no fans. The U.S. is sending the second largest delegation they've ever sent, 513 athletes. And they've all pretty much left because they have to quarantine for 2 weeks before whatever their first event is. And for a lot of them, of course, that's going to be the opening ceremony.
Yep.
So they're already either there or on their way so they can go into lockdown. And then it's virtual daily testing for everyone.
So here's what I don't understand about that. And I have to go through that same thing. If I go to Thailand, if I have to take a test 72 hours before I get on a plane, they'll test me when I land, and then they'll test me 2 other times, 6 and 12 days that I'm in the country. But if I have the Moderna vaccine or you have the Pfizer vaccine, I'm under the impression that you cannot transmit it. Am I under a false impression?
You are under a false impression. Not only can you still transmit, you can still get sick. There have been, especially with the Delta variant a little bit and the Delta Plus variant more so, increasing numbers of people previously vaccinated who are getting sick. Now, for those people, it tends to be a very quick progression through the disease and onto recovery, sometimes just 2 or 3 days. Sometimes essentially not much worse than just, a light brush with the regular flu. But yeah, you can still transmit. That's why most of the world still requires masks, even if you are vaccinated.
Right. Well, that's an interesting thing because American Airlines just canceled a flight because 30 teenagers refused to wear masks. They were going on some sort of a graduation thing, and American Airlines actually canceled the flight so that they wouldn't go. They just said, get off the plane. That's it. We're not. If you won't wear a mask, get off. And they canceled the flight. So that is happening out there.
So Jan, a buddy of mine just sent his wife back to Thailand with his young daughter. 2 weeks of quarantine. I don't know how the heck you'd even consider getting in the country. Even though she is a Thailand native, and the child was born there. They had to, they're 1 week into a 2-week quarantine at the airport where they bring you spaghetti in the evening. They don't even, you can order some stuff, but for the most part, they try to bring you scheduled meals. Then it's a 7-day quarantine at her home.
Yeah, that's if you're a Thai. Now, if you're an American and I was going to fly into Bangkok, then what they call is the ASQ, and you're locked into your hotel room for 14 nights.
Yeah,
on the 15th day, you could go. But what the government did, they announced the beginning of July was what they called the Phuket Sandbox. Now, Phuket is an island. And so basically you can go into the island and you can go anywhere on the island, provided, and this is what they didn't say in the beginning, is that you stay at the same hotel. That's what they call an SHA plus hotel where they can monitor you. And so I've done that. I've already paid for that room. But the reality is look, traveling anywhere is difficult these days, anywhere other than if you leave the United States. Even going to Canada, it's difficult. Going to Mexico, not so much. But I just had some friends came back from Canada, and they came back from not from Canada, but from Mexico, Cancun, Mexico City, and I also had some friends that just came back from Medellin, Colombia, and they're saying it's a breeze. Everybody's wearing masks down there. They've got a lot of their people vaccinated. And it seems to be pretty safe. I don't think it's as safe as being in the United States in where I live in Henderson or the states that, California, San Francisco, those areas where they have a lot of vaccinations. But if you go down to the South, to, Alabama, Missouri, Arkansas, those states where the vaccination rate is very, very low, then the biggest fear that they have is that Delta virus, which has 1,000 times more virus cells in your body than the normal version of COVID. And my biggest fear of that is that if they don't get vaccinated soon, that this virus could mutate again, and it might become not the Delta version, but the Gamma version. And then, until it gets all the way up to the double Z version. And then,
Well, it is. Yeah, there's a Delta Plus and there's a Lambda variant now too that originated in Peru, but they've seen it in Canada already.
Yeah, we're an international society. Things move very fast, and there's no way to prevent it from moving, with the exception of closing your borders down completely. But that's impossible. You can't close down your borders. Then you could limit people, but you really can't close them down because there's too much land in between countries that people can sneak across if they really want to get across the border.
So back to the Tokyo Olympics, did I hear that the Tokyo sites are not allowing any audience, but other sites outside of Tokyo are allowing audience? Has anybody heard that?
I thought I heard that the outskirts were no longer allowing it as well.
Ah, there you go. Okay, so at one point maybe they were, but now it's changed, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think so too. I think so.
Right, Roddy.
That's
get an answer. Maybe tell you guys next week.
That's not a good sign. I mean, that them closing or not allowing gatherings is, kind of a sign of things to come. Does that mean in the United States we're going to go back to not having events and not having gatherings? Oh boy, that would suck.
That would suck. I mean, did anybody see the Garth Brooks thing at Allegiant Stadium? Did anybody see the photos that Mike Strickland submitted? That was pretty impressive on how many people actually showed up. I didn't see any masks in the crowd in the photos that I saw, but I saw thousands.
Well, that's because everyone was vaccinated.
Oh, is that right, Mike?
The honor system, yeah. Everyone there was vaccinated.
Everyone was vaccinated. Wink, wink. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, it's who knows what's going to happen, but we're going to find out in 2 weeks, right? Won't we?
When are they going to come up with a card or something to show what it is? I mean, I took a photocopy of my deal and laminated it, and I have it in my wallet to prove if somebody asks me. But how are you supposed to prove?
There's so much.
The honor system is such bullshit.
So much controversy and so much political talk about that it's. I feel that it's never going to be solid.
And the people that just don't want to get vaccinated, like I said, I went over to do a WNBA game in Burbank the other day, at the convention center, and the A2 that was on my list, he didn't show up. So I called him to ask him, because it was a pre-cabled show, what was on the pairs. He says, "Oh, I have COVID." And then I talked to the truck engineers, and he says, "Yeah, he's one of those anti-vaxxer guys." I'm like, "Well, there you go, idiot."
Yeah. I really don't know. I mean, but Live Nation, I read an article that Michael Rapino tells CNBC that concert markets are fully open and Europe will follow soon. And so we've got a link on that as well that we'll throw up. But basically, he's saying, Live Nation is saying, hey, we are open and we are ready to roll, And so that's something that we have to deal with, because look, I know for myself from SoundBroker, we are really, really busy right now. As far as the way people are calling us, we're starting to sell our Avid parts again, which we haven't sold in months and months. The stage business for us has been amazing. Thinking that, last month we sold 4 stages, 3 mobile stages and just one stage right stage, which is pretty impressive, seeing, that's the most I've ever sold in any one month in the history of our company. And that's going on now since 1997. So it's a long time that as Kenny would say, decades, decades. Right, Ken? Anyway, so that's basically what's happening, and it's an interesting thing.
The 2010s and the 2020s, 2 decades.
Yeah, and one thing I will share with you guys, and I'll share with all of you, When I first started SoundBroker and I built up our website, I wanted to know what people were looking at on our website. And we have, basically close to, I would say, 500,000 items listed now over the years. And in the last 7 days, these are the most popular items that people looked at. Number one was a refurbished SL250, a Stage Line 250. The second item that was the most popular was a Stage Line 265. The third item was an Apex 2420. And then we have a speaker system, a Meyer speaker system, which is which they call the Power Combo, and that had a lot of views as well. Then we go back into stages. People were looking at an SL100, an SL50, an SL100. So basically, other than a Digico SD21 and the Meyer system, people coming to SoundBroker are not even looking for PA. They're looking for stages, which is pretty interesting. I wonder what that says.
I guess that says it's good for you that you are the go-to place for secondhand stages or the best deals on stages or something, because they're coming to you. That's good for you.
Yeah, but I see that like right now,
but I think it also says that people that there's an opportunity out there, and perhaps even a demand for smaller events that are more easily managed, and that I'd be willing to bet at least some of these stage buyers have, if not all of them, have work already lined up for that stage. Because, those stages you don't buy them on a lark. You don't buy them on a whim. Those stages cost a little bit of money. So I'd have to think that those folks have events lined up for them. We know those stages are going to, they're not going to be used for an arena festival. You're not going to use them for 100,000 people. You're probably not going to use them for 50,000 people. So I would say these stages are probably in demand for that 5,000 to 10,000 person
outdoor event. Yep.
Outdoor
I would
event.
agree 1,000%.
And my guess is that there's a good market for that because people have discovered, hey, first of all, we want to get back outdoors because we were cooped up for a year. And secondly, I'm not interested in being shoulder to shoulder, chest to back with 100,000 other people these days. I want to go do something outdoorsy and, a little more comfortable, physically comfortable with a little more spacing.
Well, I want to say this, and I agree with you completely what you're saying, but 180,000 music lovers stormed the fortress of Petrovaradin in Novi Sad, Serbia over the weekend for the first proper dance after 18 months of silence in Europe. So basically, they're saying that 180,000 people showed up to this dance festival, which was an outdoor event. Half of the 4-day ticket holders came from abroad, despite the hassle traveling throughout European continent. And proof of people, so it's proof that people are looking for social gathering. That's 180,000 people going to Serbia for a concert.
Yeah, I think we're at the point where people are just, ready to take the risk, sort of. Don't you think?
Right. I think so. And they announced Stagecoach now. Stagecoach is coming at I think Stagecoach, but it's for next year. I don't think they're going to do it this year. But that means Coachella is going to be around as well. And that's a lot of work for people. Broadway said that they're opening up on September 14th. So basically the big shows, Hadestown, Chicago, Hamilton, Wicked, The Lion King, Lackawanna Blues, they're all announced that they're opening on September 14th. So Broadway will be back at the end of the summer. And I guess, not that I don't know how many of us have kids, but I'm guessing now that the best babysitter in the world is school, public school and regular school. So the question is do we know if they're going to ask the kids to get vaccinated for COVID, or are they just going to open the schools and let them in?
As a matter of fact, the head of vaccinations for the state of Tennessee was fired a couple of days ago because apparently, this is at least what it looks like on the surface. They're starting to look into it. But apparently she had the audacity to remind Tennesseans that even underage children under certain circumstances do not have to get their parents' consent for a vaccination. There's an actual law in Tennessee that's been on the books apparently for decades that allows minors to get vaccinated even without parents' permission. And she mentioned that at a press release, and shortly thereafter was fired. So, or at a press conference, sorry. So it'll be interesting to see how many kids have been vaccinated and what vaccine they got. And I'm also curious to see if the school district just starts to offer vaccines, you know, in the nurse's office or the health office or whatever, just to make it even easier.
Hey, John, what do you know about that? I mean, as far as an educator, you've been an educator most of your lives. Do you know anything about what the rules are with regarding kids getting vaccinated before they go back to school?
No, that's remember, schools have a great deal of local control. I know there's guidance from the state level, but local boards usually determine that. So anything I'd say would be out of ignorance, which isn't, not that I have spoken ignorantly before, but on this one, I really don't know what's going on, other than there is a fair amount of local control.
Well, we got Brian Scott in the room, a man who, even if he doesn't know what he's talking about, sounds like he knows what he's talking about. He's so believable. Brian, what do you know? I can't hear him, unfortunately. God, the words of wisdom, I just want to hear what he has to say. Please.
Are the sounds of silence.
I have no idea, Jan.
I just hope I don't have to pay royalties now that you've sang that Paul Simon song, Mike Brown. Damn.
I think saying I sang it was being quite charitable on your part, and
I guess you're right. You know, if I didn't recognize the words, I wouldn't have known him.
Paul Simon's probably like, "Please, Mike, sing that more because it drives them all back to me."
Yeah. That's right. So anyway, another thing that's interesting is the Texas Broadcast Association is holding their convention on August 12th in Paul's hometown of Austin. Paul, do you know anything about that? And what they're going to be talking about?
This is the first I've heard of it, Jan. I'm sorry, I don't.
Well, there you go.
I'm not on top of that at all. Sorry.
Well, if you want to go see the Texas Association of Broadcasters, August 12th, downtown Austin is where they're going to be holding it. And I think Kavlo is coming to Dallas soon, right?
Oddly enough, Jan, I knew about the Texas Association of Broadcasters show because I was researching other events happening in Texas that might possibly conflict with. Let me roll out of the way. Because Kavlo is going to Texas. We'll be there October 6th and 7th.
Oh, your name was in the way, and I thought it said 6/7/21.
Yeah, I know. I gotta delete the tag. I guess I saw that.
And if you order right now, he'll throw in a set of Ginsu knives and maybe a ShamWow.
No. Not Ginsu knives, Cutco knives. American-made steel, baby.
Right.
Those are great. That's great.
You know,
do you have Cutco knives?
I had a set of Cutco knives for the longest time because in my youth I sold Cutco knives.
Hi, Phil
Swift
here.
Sound like my son, Mike. My son says that all the time. Every time he sees a knife, he goes, "Yeah, it's not a Cutco."
I will say that on 2 occasions I cut myself with Cutco knives, and on neither occasion did I feel it. I just looked down and there was blood everywhere.
So in other words, they're super sharp.
Amazingly sharp. Really, really good products. I don't even know
I
if they're
still have
around, but if they are, I highly recommend them.
I still have my Cutco ice cream scoop that I got decades ago.
Oh, I didn't even know they made an ice cream scoop. That thing's probably indestructible.
Well, I think it's Cutco. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I thought it was. I thought that's what I purchased when all those knives were for sale as a school,
Right.
fundraising thing.
Yeah, that and Phil Swift here for Flex Tape. I don't know why I like that guy so much, but for some reason I love that one where he flex tapes the boat. I wonder if we could flex tape a PA system. That's it.
Jan,
I will say this, speaking to PA systems, I've had to rebuild a couple of very beat up PA systems in the past, that are used here at the pools. And when we do, and we reshoot the outside with bed liner, we shoot the inside too of the box, and we close up all those seams in the wood. and it definitely improves the sound.
Jan,
But do you use flex tape?
I have used flex tape. It really does work. I don't.
Jan,
All
I
right.
think you missed your calling. You should definitely get into the infomercial, late night infomercial. You should be that guy, selling the flex tape or whatever, man. You'd be perfect at that. You get the total personality for it.
I don't want to end up like that guy from ShamWow, whatever it is, where he is,
Hey, I have an idea. I just had an idea. I think Paul should come up to Cavalo on Thursday, October 7th from Austin, come to lovely Arlington, Texas, and he can be your special guest host when you do a special Thursday edition of the SoundBroker Roundtable. And he can do it live from Cavalo.
I like that idea. I think we'll take that up as an invitation. We'll make that a priority for us. Live from Dallas, Texas through Phuket, Thailand. That's it.
So then Paul is going to have all his expenses to get from Austin to Dallas paid by SoundBroker. That'll be amazing.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be amazing.
I will cover Paul's room. I'll be happy to cover his hotel room.
Will miracles never cease, ladies and gentlemen? Will miracles never cease? Did I tell you this is Phil Swift here for Flex Tape? I'm taping Paul down to his chair there in Austin. We'll be going nowhere fast. All right.
Hey, Mike, have you noticed a trend here? Every time you do a Cavalo event, Jan disappears.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking just now. I was thinking to myself, I wonder if Jan will make this Cavalo. And then he made the comment about Thailand. I was like, no, he's not going to make this one either.
It's like, you'll notice one thing as people say, you'll never see me and Dr. Fauci in the same room. And you probably never see me and Mike Brown in the same room. We could be the same person. That's it. With artificial intelligence the way it is.
Not a chance.
Yes. So anyway, what's going on right now is the food service industry right now. So I guess everybody's been going back out to restaurants. I know I have. And the food service industry, one of the most upended sectors of the pandemic, has totally remained in a state of flux. And it's hit a record high of 80% in May of turnovers. So what are we seeing in our industry? Are we seeing any turnover? We see people coming back. What are we seeing? But it seems like restaurant people are quitting like crazy.
I saw a post on somebody's Facebook page about Claire wanting to hire lots of people, like 150 or 200 people for touring jobs. So I gather there's going to be some turnover.
I would guess there is. I spoke with one of our friends, Steve Ligorio out of Texas, and he's starting to crew shows, and he's having a little bit of trouble finding crews, but for the most part, he's finding enough people to crew his shows in El Paso. So that's a good sign,
I'd add to this too. I was just in preparation, as I was preparing the Cavalo exhibitor prospectus and looking up statistics and on AV workers and that sort of thing in the Texas area, Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, Tola. I'm not sure the U.S. Department of Labor and the Bureau of Labor Statistics know we exist to any kind of definite way. They have a category called AV technicians. And according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there's approximately 10,000 AV technicians in Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Now, if you start thinking about people who do AV for churches, in hotels, for concerts, AV installers, that number seems low to me.
Very.
So yes, so much so that I don't think it's just me thinking, they missed a couple of people. I'm wondering if they ever really know we exist. And I was having a conversation on LinkedIn recently with a gentleman that had a research company here in Vegas, and he recently got hired by UNLV to run their Center for Business and Economic Research because they put out a They do a weekly newsletter and they aggregate information from other places. And ZipRecruiter put out a study that said they did a poll in the number of employees in the service and hospitality sectors who report that they are seeking to work, that they're looking for work outside of those industries is 70%.
Wow.
And so my question to him was, what is a hospitality worker? Is it literally, a bartender, a food server, like that, like kind of the traditional definition, or does hospitality also include everyone who works in a hotel? Or is it just some people who work in a hotel, but technically they're all in the hospitality industry because they all work for the hotel, right? We sort of all work in the hospitality industry because we're in the entertainment business, and entertainment is essentially a form of hospitality, at least live entertainment, right? So
Right.
I'm just not sure when we see these studies how relevant they are, because I don't know how quantified the data is and how well researched it's been and how well represented we are as an industry. Kelly Fair, I had breakfast with him this morning. He's at a lunch meeting. Otherwise, he'd be here. He said to say hello. I've done my job.
Well,
Kelly Fair said one of the reasons that the whole 600 megahertz thing happened is because nobody ever registers their wireless mics. If everybody registered every wireless mic they buy, then the FCC would have known that there were literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of them out there. I don't think the outcome would have been any different when T-Mobile started backing up armored cars full of cash. I think the writing was on the wall, but still, I wonder as an industry how well represented we are. Look how hard it was for Mike Strickland to fight.
I think it starts, Mike, because we don't have an IRS code. Our industry does not have its own IRS identification code. And when you don't have that, then that's a trickle-down effect, because everything boils down from where the IRS tracks the revenue and growth. So because we're piggybacking on whatever our accountant tells us is the closest service code to go to, that's where we're landing. But, my accountant, for 2 years in a row, he was back and forth talking to other people. Where do I plug you in? Where do I plug this in at? And
yeah, when you look up the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there's a category. If you look for, you just search for keywords. So I searched for entertainment. There's a category called entertainment attendant. There's no definition. I have no idea what an entertainment attendant does, what they are attending to, but there's 110 of them in Texas.
I think they put out perfumes and colognes in the men's room.
That's what it sounds like, but I bet it's more along the lines of, something in public places, like, taking care of the what do you call it, handing out the programs at a theater or something.
It could be, but there's only 110 of them.
Which is like very suspicious.
Right.
Yeah.
So by the way, though, if you are a film projectionist, the Bureau of Labor Statistics does track your industry. So congratulations.
Well, that's very interesting, because when we ship overseas, you need an NAICS code or a SIC code, and there is nothing that comes close to what we, of what we do. The closest that I have found is stereo equipment, and a merchant wholesaler, is basically the closest thing I found.
That's one of my NAICS codes. When I, apply for grants or whatever, that's one of the ones I use. I've got about 10 NAICS codes that I use to describe my business. None of them is spot on, but between the 10 of them, it pretty much covers everything.
Yeah, and that's the problem with all of us, because there is no sound reinforcement NAICS codes, as you called it, or a SIC code for that, or there is, for an amplifier or for a speaker, other than for stereo.
As generic as professional entertainment and communication equipment.
Yeah.
Then at least that covers your amp and your speaker and your camera and your microphone and your LECO and your console, all that.
Yeah. So I guess you're right in regards to that about how they're not tracking our industry. So Brian has hit on something over there, but I don't think there's any movement amongst us to claim a number for us, for our industry. Is there? Has anybody heard of anybody movement like that? Maybe when over COVID,
No, but I mean,
we'll give
SVOG
Strickland
is
another
rolling out.
responsibility.
I mean, SVOG has pretty much rolled out. I think Mike Strickland's looking for something new to do. Let's call him.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. That's exactly my sentiments. We'll call Mike, we'll call Mike Strickland when we need to get our
Hey, we
codes.
need a new IRS code. And he'll
Yes.
be like, what? I can't hear you. Can't hear you. Gotta go.
But the interesting thing, I mean, in moving along in regards to that, and we can come back to it, but what I found in speakers is that the goal here is to make the speaker smaller, lighter weight, and produce more vibration. Right? So that we can have more sound, more intelligibility, and less distortion. And that to me is a very good thing. However, in the cereal business, General Mills, not General Motors. I mean, that would be some crunchy cereal that General Motors would make. But the reality is that there's such a thing now, is that these cereal makers now are what they're calling it shrinkification instead of inflation. And basically General Mills has just reduced the size of their cereal boxes, not the size of the box itself, but the content inside the boxes, from 19.3 ounces to 18.1 ounces. And it doesn't stop there. The worst offender is Charmin. Charmin now, they had 650 sheets, but what they did was they made the sheets smaller. And now, now you have to buy the mega roll or the super mega roll to get the same amount of sheets, but it's smaller. I mean, what do you think of that?
So that's been going on for years with Dollar Tree. So that's how Dollar Tree does. They shrink the package size till it gets down to $1.
Yeah, but when you buy a mega roll, it's bigger than the non-mega roll. So the volume is there, so the paper must be there.
They know what they've done is they've cut the size of the sheets. So
Yeah,
you're getting the same, you're getting 650 sheets, but instead of them, let's say, be 4 by 4, now they're, 3.5 by 3.5.
Right, but I'm just talking about the mega rolls, because those are just larger than regular rolls. So even if there's smaller size, there's still more sheets because there's more volume. But maybe on a regular roll.
I mean, I think that they're doing that, and the same with PA systems. They're making it smaller, but you're getting more value.
Trucking costs go down.
Yeah, that's it. Trucking costs go down. So speaking of which, another
toilet
thing.
paper, Ken Porter has joined us, ladies and gentlemen.
Ah, very, very good.
So Jan, I have to ask this question because I ask it in my training classes. So under accessibility rules, is it over or under on the toilet paper?
Accessibility rules?
Definitely over. Because when
over or under?
Over or under? I like an over. I like the under. I have to go underneath and to pull it out. No, I like the over. I'm an over guy.
When they print patterns on toilet paper, it's for over, not under.
So there is no rule under accessibility, but the U.S. patent, if you're in compliance with the U.S. patent, it is over.
That's right.
That's how the patent is filed.
Yeah, could you imagine how hard it would be for the hotel maids, I think, or the housekeeping department to fold it over in a little triangle underneath? It would make their job even that much more difficult. I mean, because that's how that they've cleaned your bathroom, right? Isn't that the way? Isn't that the way of the world?
Well, at least they've been in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Isn't there a rule for ADA for that?
It used to be the toilet seat ring. It's over. No more.
Yeah. So I'd like to cover a little bit before Mike Brown gives me the high sign here. I'd like to cover a little bit about Las Vegas. And so here's the biggest news. Professional fighters in Nevada will no longer be punished for smoking pot. The Nevada State Athletic Commission voted unanimously on Wednesday to remove marijuana from its list of banned substances for combat combat athletes. So, I mean, what happened to that runner in the Olympics? I mean, don't you think that's so unfair? I mean, as what? Somebody shaking his head no.
I don't think it's unfair. The rules are the rules, especially when you're at that level of competition. The rules are cut and dry. This wasn't.
Rules should be changed.
Yeah, and they probably will be changed. But at the time of the infraction, the rule was clear.
That's right.
Clear. And that's, when you're at that level of athletic competition, this wasn't rec league, this wasn't, weekend co-ed. Those are the rules, and it's your
So
job.
what was the infraction? I missed the story.
Olympic athlete tested positive for marijuana. She lives somewhere where marijuana is legal, but the Olympic committee said that's all fine and dandy, but the rules as an athlete are very clear. Marijuana is not allowed. You're off the team.
Yeah.
What's that actor? The actor name who always he's known for smoking pot.
Seth Rogen?
Seth Rogen said if smoking pot made you faster, I would be faster than FloJo.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe she was taking it, as a relaxant. It's
Painkiller, yeah.
It expands
So,
your.
yeah, and she's supposed to be as fast, or she's supposed to be the FloJo of this era. So she's a really good athlete, and she had a child since the last Olympics or something, and she's a really good athlete, but for some reason they're disqualifying her because she had a little THC in her system.
Yeah, that's it.
Mike is right, though. I have to agree with you, Mike. I don't agree with the rule at all, but the reality is, 100% you're going to be tested when you finish your race.
Absolutely right. And she admitted it totally. She was really she was really cool about it in all the interviews that I saw with her. She was very cool, and she'll probably compete in the next Olympics or something. But what a drag!
Isn't that part of the international rules and not the U.S. rules?
Yeah, you're correct, Ken.
Probably.
Yeah. Yep.
After all, it is the IOC, right? Not just the OC.
That's right. The IOC. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but it was the U.S. that imposed that on her and kept her off the team. It wasn't the iOS.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. And I think that, that would have to do with mental health. And then we come back to Naomi Osaka's mental health situation and the people that, what we're doing for people whose mental health. I mean, as I was saying to you, it's like it hit me really hard the other day because I'm working on my Thailand certificate of entry, and I get this guy on the phone who I don't really know very well. He says to me on the phone, he says, "I'm so frustrated with my job that I'm going to quit tonight." And of course, I had mixed emotions about that because I really didn't want him to quit because I still need him to get this certificate of entry. And then he says, and so I tried getting him in conversation. I said, "So what's really bothering you? Why would you want, how could your job be so frustrating?" And he says, "I'm so frustrated, I want to commit suicide. I'm suicidal." And then that changed the whole conversation for me, because then instead of wanting that certificate of entry, I just felt, wow, this guy could kill himself. And I could be the one that pushed him over the edge for just calling him up and saying, "Hey, where is my CEO? Where is it?" And so I spent 20 minutes with the guy on the phone trying to bring him down. But there's a lot of health issues out there in this country. A lot of people are super frustrated with their job, super frustrated with life, super frustrated with so many things that they can't control anymore. And this whole episode, for sure, I'd like to share one thing. What I'm learning right now, and it's being reinforced, I've known this for a long time, but the only thing that we're really in control of is how we react to what happens to us. We can't control anything else other than that. We don't know what's going to happen to us. We can't plan that well. So the only thing that we could react to is how it affects us and what we do about it. And there you go.
Illusion.
That's it. So it is. It's all about how, it's all about your ability to relate to what happens to you. Other than that, you have no control over anything else, So I thought I'd bring that up, and I thought I'd share with you guys on that respect. So, a lot of people smoke marijuana and they just say, wow, well, makes me feel better, makes the music sound better, that's for sure. It makes the music sound better, and speaking of music, Steve, you're back in the room, and Ken, you might know something. I just read this article that the abandoned airport terminal, where everything still works in New Orleans, is virtually an abandoned airport terminal at Louis Armstrong. What's going on with that? Are they going to make that a concert hall?
I was told it was going to be for cargo. They were changing. That was all going to be for cargo to build up our, the industry here for air cargo more. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with it at this point. No, I doubt if it's going to be a concert venue.
I'm just trying to bring it back to our industry. Speaking of our industry, Las Vegas, here's another bit of information that you might, Mike Brown probably knows more about this than I do. Blackstone will buy 2 pieces of real estate for a combined value of 3.9 billion with a B, like the MGM did with casinos over the last few years. They will own the casino business. MGM will own the casino business, but they'll be paying rent to Blackstone. And check this out, because Blackstone's going to buy the building, and they're saying that the $3.89 billion represents an equivalent of 18.1 months of rent. That is a lot of money in gambling.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to all the casino companies a few years ago started creating rates, real estate investment trusts, and selling themselves the land and then renting the facility back and then paying rent as a percentage of the take. It's just a reflection of how tax rules work. The difference now is that Blackstone and a couple of other large companies, but Blackstone's kind of the leader, have gone to the casino companies and said, hey, instead of you creating a rate, we'll be your landlord. We'll buy the land and lease it back to you, and then you operate it and pay us rent. It's pretty straightforward deal. The most interesting thing is when Blackstone bought the city center land. So what happened is MGM bought out Dubai World. For those of you who don't know, all of City Center was a partnership between MGM Resorts and Dubai World, 50-50. MGM bought out Dubai World as part of a transaction to sell the land under City Center to Blackstone and then rent it back to operate it. So now MGM owns all of City Center, the buildings. Blackstone owns all of City Center, the land, and then MGM pays Blackstone rent. The most interesting thing that came out of that was that MGM has a real estate investment trust company called MGM Properties. They were never invited to be part of the deal. MGM Resorts cut their own subsidiary out of the real estate transaction. So there's some questions floating around as to, and MGM Properties owns the land under a couple of other MGM resorts. So there's some questions floating around as to what's happening with that subsidiary, and is it still viable? Are they going to keep that office open? They have a beautiful facility at One Summerlin, which is the high rise that overlooks the ballpark in Summerlin. Small office, small company. There's only 7 or 8 people that work there, but yes, there's some question as to what happened there and why MGM's own real estate company wasn't allowed to be part of this transaction.
Must be the timeshare aspect of it. That's it. It's the stepbrother to everything else, timeshare. And I'm going to be doing infomercials on timeshare very shortly. Thanks, Paul. Good idea. Hey, okay, so let's open the room up. Who's got something else they want to say? I've gone through all the news.
All right, I got a story here of interest to the group. Okay. I live in a county. I have a land in a county east of Austin called Bastrop, and they just announced that there's a project called Bastrop 552. It's a 546 acre private entertainment hub and film studio, which has been given a green light by the city council. And Line 204 Studios, which some of you may know, is a Southern California company behind the project, and they got approval to do this. This is going to have a $2 billion impact to the area, 1,400 jobs, 700 construction jobs, and $2 billion in economic impact. So this is something relevant to this group. This is a place where you guys could sell lots of sound stages and gear. So
Well,
there
thank
you
you,
go.
Paul. That's a good one. That's a good one. Ken Porter already left to go try to sell it to him. You know, that's it. He's already moving on. He took that lead, went right to his people. Say, let's get on this one. Let's get on this right away. So who else wants to have? Anybody have anything they want to share that we haven't covered that's burning a hole in their pocket? All right, well, then that's about it. So let's talk about one last thing that I thought would be an interesting thing that would cover everybody, and that is how to get through the airport security a little bit faster. There was an article that I read by the Points guy, and I think he's got a pretty good newsletter of what goes on in traveling. And the number one thing he says, if you're going to travel internationally, you get the global entry in the TSA pre-check, which is a really good thing to have. The other thing is if you can, fly premium class. Now, I'll tell you one story, and this is way back in the old days when I used to go to Brazil all the time, and I used to fly Continental Airlines all of the time. And one day I got there very late to the airport, but the people knew me. And so they said to me, they said, look, you're going to miss the plane. The only way to get you there is if we put you in a wheelchair and we push you there. That would be the only way that we can get you there. Now, at this particular trip, I had overstayed my visa. I had stayed by a couple of days. So now I'm in a wheelchair and they're rushing me through security and everything like that. And I get to immigration and they see that I have overstayed my visa. And now they make her wheel me in to the immigration office. And now I'm sitting in a wheelchair and these guys have got my passport. Now, of course, I have no reason being in a wheelchair whatsoever. And I'm thinking, oh no, I'm definitely going to miss the plane. Now I'm sitting in a wheelchair and I'm helpless with these guys because I can't get up. Those were the days. Anyway, that's because I was flying first class all the time. So it does have, there is some benefits. This article is really interesting. The other thing is they recommend that you get Clear for expedited security. Brian, do you know anything more about that than I know about Clear? Got to unmute you. Because I know you do a lot of flying.
Clear is the most expensive format, and with Clear, basically you're verified by your iris. You have to register your iris from your eye, and then you got to go up to the screen and scan it, and then they'll take you to the head of the line. You still have to check. You still have to go have your bag screened, but it's a way to bypass everything. And because so few people pay the premium price for it, usually there's no wait when you go through it, but you can't piggyback somebody else with like you can with pre-check, but you can't do it on that. It's a one-on-one, but it's supposed to be the most secured form of passing through. So
is anybody using that?
I had it for a while, and I found that it's by the TSA pre-line, and you look over there, the guy standing in front of the iris reader, and I looked where I was online, and it really that wasn't that much of a difference. It certainly wasn't worth the extra money.
If you travel a lot of international, they claim it is, but I mean for domestic flights, I use pre-check. I think the longest I've waited on a pre-check line is 10 minutes. Part of the other reason that I use pre-check is three of my tools that I carry. The regular lines, I have to empty my my tool bag out every time where pre-check, they'll scan it and it'll go through. They don't give me any grief.
Last couple times I've flown, the clear line was way longer than the pre-check line.
Yeah, I haven't ever seen that, but I've been doing a lot of shuttles to Baltimore and back. So between Baltimore and Charlotte, it's never been that long. The only place that I honestly see in the last 3 years where clear would be an advantage would be at Orlando. Once, because even the pre-check lines are murder in Orlando with everybody going down to Disney.
Right. Well, I will tell you this: if you're going to fly international to Asia, I highly recommend the APEC card, because that really they have a special window that you go through, and you really fly through immigration with an APEC card, and it's very inexpensive, and it's really a value that I can't recommend it high enough. So. The other thing is that I hear that Clear is going to start going into concert venues to get people in through faster as well. Has anybody had any experience with that?
I read that also, but no.
No, they're looking at that for a half a dozen. They're looking to expand it beyond the airports. So it's, and I think if you start to go into other venues that you use on a regular basis, then the price might be worth its cost. But yeah, David, I agree with you. It's not, from the travel that I'm doing, it's not worth the money.
Yeah, I'm going to look into it myself, and I'll report back next week on what the costs are and if there's any benefit or whatever. Now, I really want to thank everybody for coming. For those people who watched us on YouTube and Facebook, you're more than welcome to participate in the panel. All you have to do is send me an email, soundbroker@gmail, and I will send you the link. Or anybody in this room, if you know anybody, they also have a link that they can send you. You could also, put a comment in the YouTube that you want me to send you the link, and I'll do that as well. So I hope you enjoyed this particular episode. Next week, Ken Porter wasn't here, but next week we have all agreed that we're going to move the time back to 3:00 on the Las Vegas time. So that'll make it 6:00 on the East Coast time. So more people will have different excuses. And 5:00 where Steve Sluter is. So in New Orleans, and with Ken Porter. So that way you could sleep again during the show. We could help you with your nocturnal activities. That's what we'll do. Also, I want to talk about coffee makers as well. So when we go offline, if anybody drinks coffee, this is going to be really cool. I'm saving this for another time. And the last thing I want to say is next week, we're also going to add a new segment, as we talked about in the beginning of the show, where we're going to do a technical breakdown of some aspect of our industry and get into depth. One of the things we're looking at right now is doing something and talking about frequency responses in regards to wireless, and how the FCC is giving us approval and permission to use those particular bands, and what's on the horizon with the NAB, how we're fighting them, and getting into that with two experts in the field, Kelly Fair and Joe Ciadelli from Sennheiser, Kelly Fair from Electrosonic. So that should be interesting. It might not be next week, but we're going to plan that. But if anybody has a topic that they want to cover in great detail, send me an email to soundbroker@gmail, and we'll bring that up and we'll set it up, and we'll get some experts in the room to talk about that particular aspect. It could be anything. It could be signal path. It could be console programming, anything that you guys could think of that you want to discuss in great detail, then let me know, and I will put together a panel of experts to come in, and we could all discuss it and really learn something. Fred, you might want to talk about broadcast how to broadcast audio properly. I'm not really sure what people want, but whatever it is you want, send me an email, or let's talk about it after this is over. So with that in mind, thank you everybody out there in the real world and virtual world, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're watching it, Twitter. And we're gonna go offline right now, and we're gonna talk about you. That's it. Remember, you make it happen. Stay safe and healthy, and wish me a lot of luck in getting to Thailand. So the next time I broadcast, I'm going to be broadcasting from Thailand, but I doubt that's going to happen.